If you want to stay up to date with all current hip hop events and releases, make sure to subscribe, hit that like button, and follow my social media in the description. It really helps me out. What's up, everyone? So today we got another tier list that I wanted to create, or basically go over and give my opinion on. And this time it's going to be about Drake albums. This has also been requested under the last tier list I made, so this is my take on this Drake tier list. As you can see, we have categories from S through A, B, C, and then all the way to D. And we have his albums in chronological order, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, at the bottom right here, we start with So Far Gone. I'm guessing Room for Improvement and Comeback Season. He didn't see as they weren't commercial albums. They aren't listed in here. Although So Far Gone was also a mixtape, it was more, it was a commercial. So I guess that's what the criteria for these records were. Then we have his debut studio album, Thank Me Later. We have Take Care. Nothing Was the Same, If You're Reading This Is Too Late, which was technically also a mixtape, but I guess since it's commercial, as I just said, is listed here. We have What a Time to Be Alive with Future, which I also recently dropped an interesting video on about the sequel to that happening soon, where I go over some evidence that I would really recommend you go check out if you're interested in Drake, in Drake's new music or new releases from Drake or Future. Then we have Views, More Life, which was also a playlist and not an album, or something weird that Drake called it, whatever. And then we have his latest album, Scorpion. And now we're trying to go through and see, how I would rank them among each other. But as always, feel free to let me know what your tier lists are in the comments. I'm very interested in that, to see what other Drake fans rank his albums as. So yeah, definitely let me know. I'm looking forward to talking to you in the comments. So I think I'll start, like I always do, by picking my favorite Drake album. And I really love So Far Gone, and it's probably the Drake project I've listened to the most. I think I gotta give my favorite Drake album to either Take Care or Nothing Was the Same, as I think a lot of Drake fans would. I just feel like that was like his style that he really, innovated or brought something fresh into hip-hop with, was most prevalent on those two records. Later on, he just kind of, especially starting with What a Time to Be Alive and then going on for the next couple of projects, he was just kind of riding on waves and trying to catch, certain local sounds and make them more popular, which is not a bad thing at all. He has given many artists platforms through that and expanded hip-hop's popular spectrum. But a lot of people also criticize him for not staying true to his original sound. But yeah, I think Take Care is definitely, top tier Drake. Just, conceptually, all the way from the first song. What was the first song? Over My Dead Body, all the way to the last couple of tracks. I think this project really just stays consistent with the sound and the vibe it tries to create. It was, of course, also his first, or at least the first Grammy he got for Best Rap Album. I think he got a Grammy for Best I Ever Had, or at least he was nominated in 2009. So, but definitely a deserved Grammy for that year. It kind of introduced that typical Drake style with the lo-fi elements and the, very eerie instrumentals that 40 created on this. So definitely one of my favorite Drake records. All right. Then moving on from there, I would rank Nothing Was the Same either on the same level as Take Care or one below. I'm not quite sure. I'm going to have to see where I put the other ones to really, gauge how I want to arrange it. But Nothing Was the Same is, I think, his most diverse record. The sound on here can vary from slow moving ballads to some Worst Behavior type of stuff. We also have arguably the best hip hop instrumental on here with Pound Cake. So this is definitely a really good record. When I think back on this, it's like you can just put this record on, and it's like every track is like different, and it's unique in its own way and has character. So this is really a great record. The only reason I think personally I would put this above Take Care, but Take Care has such an important place in his career and his discography. So I think I'm gonna put them on the same level. I think they're both up there. And Drake always says his music is created solely for the purpose of driving at night. And recently I was driving at night and I put this record on. Nothing was the same, and it was really the vibe he was trying to communicate was really there. Every track, even though they're so different from each other, had that same energy to it that was brought out by Driving at Night. So definitely a great record. Moving on from here, I think the next best record from looking at these below here is either If You're Reading This Is Too Late or So Far Gone. I'm going to put If You're Reading This Is Too Late in the A tier. Maybe I'll move it around later, as with all of these. But I think I'm going to put this here for now. Now, If You're Reading This Is Too Late, Drake was coming off of Nothing Was the Same. And I remember this one interview, and I recently also watched a YouTube interview on it, where Drake was, back in 2012, I think after Take Care came out, he was talking about how it bothered him so much to be perceived as like the soft guy and the sad guy. And I think If You're Reading This Too Late, it's kind of Drake being like, yo, I can go hard too. And he did, and he didn't miss with this one. It of course has the slow moments, like Jungle is one of the most, Drake's most, I would say, infamous tracks. Definitely also a special vibe to that. But then of course there's a lot of bangers on here, and I think it's truly like a great representation of where he was at the time. He was kind of recognizing that he was running this whole rap game, but at the same time reflecting on like where he came from and where he's trying to go. So I think this is truly like a great, piece of art to capture his lifestyle at that time, especially coming off of like a very successful set of first 3 albums that he had like a run on before that. So I think If You're Reading This Too Late is an A tier Drake album, and I think So Far Gone is either on the same one or on the B category. I think So Far Gone is really what introduced that Drake sound, that like kind of like the instrumentals feel like they're floating, and Drake's lyrics are always like, or his vocals are like with a bit of a reverb, and you always feel like he's just talking to you, and his lyrics are very personal and self-reflecting, but at the same time he's still rapping about like, clothes and hoes and money. But it was a very humble Drake back then. And this is a mixtape, but of course it was commercially released, and it definitely also feels like that. It feels like, there was a bigger budget than his first 2 mixtapes, which of course there also was. And it's a great record. I think this is the Drake record that I've listened to the most. My favorite track is The Calm off of this one. The Calm is my favorite Drake track of all time. Lust for Life is also incredible. So a lot of, deep cuts on here that I think a lot of Drake fans really love, that maybe like, people who came, who hopped onto the Drake bandwagon after like Views dropped or something aren't aware of that Drake used to sound like that, All right, so I think that is how I will put that. I think looking at all of these down here, I think the worst record in this list is gonna be Scorpion, just because it was so obviously just made for the sole purpose of being a commercial record. We had the whole, back when it dropped in the summer of 2018, if I'm not wrong, is the whole flooding the market strategy with the Migos was popping. So Drake decided to do that too and drop 2 sides of an album, which was basically 2 albums. And I think the whole thing had like 26 tracks or something, or 25 or whatever. And it was just so not direct and not focused. It was just like a playlist. It was kind of like what he was trying to do with More Life, but couldn't really get across, but then just made in a lazy way, I feel like. There are, of course, some bangers on here. Or when I say bangers, I mean hits, basically. He started the whole, what's the song called? In My Feelings challenge. And, I mean, tracks on here. What was the one with this rolling at a stopwatch? I'm not sure what exactly that one was called. Damn, why don't I remember how that one's called? Anyway, you know the one I'm talking about. I don't know why I can't remember the name right now, but of course those tracks did well, and I also listened to them when they first came out, but it just, they didn't have that same feeling of being like a timeless piece of music that, for example, Take Care or Nothing Was the Same, or especially Take Care. Take Care is such a timeless piece in Drake's discography that they had. So Scorpion is really just, it's not even, you could argue that it's like, oh, that's just where the music industry and Drake was at that time. But then, you have a record, like if you're reading This Is Too Late, there was also, I just argued, that has the same feeling to it or the same intention behind it, but I feel like that just doesn't hold true. If you're reading This Is Too Late, it's still put together, precisely, in the right way of the songs working together, while Scorpion is just, studio sessions thrown together and then just released as the final product. So, and just trying to please everyone. I think that's also one of the issues I had with it. Just such a wide variety of songs that you can clearly see there was a label behind this telling Drake, oh, you should make this type of song next. So that's why I didn't really like Scorpion. Moving on from here though. I think I want to do More Life next. Either More Life is a bit better than Scorpion or on the same level. This has the same problem, I think, that Scorpion had, but with the excuse of Drake calling it a playlist and not an album. So it kind of gets away with it, but at the same time, that's also just an excuse for him, or I don't want to say an excuse, but it's definitely an easy way to cope with the fact that he didn't have to, string all the pieces together, and he could just throw something on there by saying like, oh, it's a playlist. It doesn't have to fit together. He definitely gave a lot of smaller artists chances on here, features, and certain single tracks that you can pick out of the track list. They definitely have their vibe to it, and they definitely, at the time were hits. But I don't think it can hold as much value in the long run as other records do. So I think this is also one of Drake's weakest records, and I think I'm going to put it in the D category. Now this one, I think what I'm going to go on with is Views, and I'm going to put this in the C category. And I think Views also suffers from the same problem that these last three had. And it's kind of sad to see that these are his latest three releases. So you could, argue that he's just become this type of way over the track of time. And that's really kind of sad to see. But Views was, I think, in itself a good concept. It was, back in 2016, it broke like the Spotify, how many streams the first day and first week had. It had I think it sold like 850K first week, which is insane. But it had that concept to it again of being like a record about Toronto and where he came from and the stories with like girls he went through back in the day, and it kind of felt more cohesive. And that's why I enjoy listening to Views. It's kind of like my guilty pleasure. I know that it was very, in its making, its creation, it was very commercial. It was just made to have hits on it. But certain moments on the record, like Western Road Flows or tracks like that, they stand out to me, and they're like, oh, Drake was like really involved in tapping into his past and what it was like growing up in Toronto and trying to, make that a piece of work. And that's why I would say Views, although it suffers from the same problems that Scorpion and More Life had, it's better than them because at least some more thought was put into it. I think the next two projects, What a Time to Be Alive and Thank Me Later, I would put both in the B category. I think Thank Me Later is a project that many overlook. I think Thank Me Later is a project that is kind of like the example of a debut studio album. It's nothing crazy. It doesn't have like a whole concept to it like Take Care did, or I'm not saying Take Care had like a big concept, but as cohesive as Take Care was. But it's kind of more like Drake showing off what he can do, that he's a hit maker, that he can, make slow tracks and hype tracks, and just showing off his versatility and his abilities as an artist. And I think it's successful in that. It sold pretty well. I think back in the day, it established him as one of hip hop's up and coming artists. And it helped pave the way for his future career. So I really see no problem with Thank Me Later. And I really don't dislike any tracks on here. Well, What a Time to Be Alive was also, Drake and Future were both coming off of the hype they had back in 2015. Drake dropped If You're Reading This Is Too Late earlier. Future had a crazy run in 2015, but I think the album he dropped before What a Time to Be Alive was DS2. And they were both at the peak popularity that they were at, and this also contributed to the success that this tape had. What a Time to Be Alive is, I think, also a perfect. All the tracks fit together. You can see that they were recorded in the same mindset that they were in. I think they both locked in Atlanta for just like a week and recorded the tracks on here. And that's like a perfect representation of that vibe that they were trying to communicate. And I think that's why it's such a successful project, because it was straight to the point. It was what they were feeling at the time, what their lifestyle was at the time. And, I think my favorite track on here might be Plastic Bag, just because like the slowest and the most, not hype one, although the hype ones are, of course, the ones you go to this album for. But Plastic Bag always has that. I love the instrumental. I love the way they flow over it, and it's a great track. But yeah, I think this is a pretty good Drake tier list. Let me know what your tier lists are in the comments below. I'm very much so looking forward to hearing what y'all think about Drake's records. Let me know where you disagree, definitely. Let me know where you agree. Let me know what you hope for Drake's next album, Certified Lover Boy, to be, and where you think it'll rank in here. I'll definitely drop some new videos on Certified Lover Boy when we learn more about the record and as we get closer to release. But yeah, I think this is pretty much what I would rank these Drake albums at. So yeah, this is my Drake tier list. If you watched this video to the end and liked it, I would really appreciate it if you would subscribe, turn on notifications, hit that like button, and go follow my social media in the description. It really helps me out. Until the next one, you'll have an incredible, amazing day.